The needle moves when you have hope. It goes to the positive. So if there's a choice and you do have a choice, you might as well have the positive choice because it is affecting things in the universe. And it's just so much that is on the verge of brilliance and everything of how the world works. And it seems like it's exciting in a way to be able to use those things in your everyday life.
Welcome to Design Of. I'm your host, Justin Ahrens, and I first came across today's guest, not through an exhibition or a keynote, but through a beautiful book. Jerry Takigawa wrote Grace in Uncertainty, a quiet, deeply reflective work that has lived on my desk for nearly 15 years. I have no idea where I got this book, and it's not a book about creativity. It's about how we make meaning, navigate complexity, and stay human in the process. If you can imagine, it's a book about 3 inches, about 5 inches. It's soft cover. It's well worn. I have all these pages dog-eared and so many highlights throughout the whole thing that when I'm just feeling stuck or need a piece of inspiration, I just open up to a page and see what shows up. And today, the quote that was underlined is, "The power to change the world has always rested precariously on the ability to create an effective communication." Through his photography, design, and writing, Jerry has spent a lifetime exploring what it means to connect to self, to story, and to the systems we live within. His work is a reflection of a search for truth and beauty and belonging, shaped by his Japanese American heritage and a quiet resilience passed down through generations. To sit with him was awesome, to be honest. To hear his process and talk about life, it was more than a conversation. It was a reminder that the most impactful work often starts with understanding our place in the world and our responsibility in it. Today, I'm privileged to share this conversation with Jerry Takigawa.
I wanted to start, can you take us back to your early years? Like what first drew you to art and design?
Art and design, it probably began in grammar school. So, doing art projects and yeah, I used to make in class these tiny little newspapers, all by hand with the masthead and the illustrations. I don't know, it's just something I did, and then I used to analyze advertising. This is when I'm 8 or 9.
That's amazing.
And saying, well, if I did it, I would have done it this way or something like that. The writing was on the wall, but I was either going to do something in art or something in the sciences like biology or something, and so decided to go towards art.
Was there a particular project or moment or influence in your life that set you on the art path?
I kind of came to the conclusion that art allowed you to create or write your own ticket, in a sense, write your own science. You had to deal with what was in front of you. Art, it could be anything, and I liked the potential and openness of that.
So how did your background in painting shape your approach to photography and design?
Well, I think I found was somewhere, I think after I graduated and I was doing paintings, and I thought, I don't know if I like being in this little room working on something, and I wanted to be out in the world more. I had photography, so I started doing that outside and enjoyed that. After college, I decided to switch over to photography. But there's an exhibition at the International Holocaust Museum.
Yeah.
And it's called Resilience. That's an exhibition that a friend of mine and I curated, and I have images in that show. The Zoom meeting I had earlier, which I ended up doing with my hotspot phone because my Wi-Fi wasn't working. He was writing a review on that exhibition, and so we were having a Zoom meeting about that.
A positive review?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. He's, basically saying, unfortunately, that it's about the Japanese internment. That's the theme of the whole show, and that it's pretty relevant. It was relevant when I first created the body of work that I have in there. Unfortunately, it's still relevant, still going. So
crazy thing right now. Growing up as a third generation Japanese American, How did your cultural heritage influence your creative journey or like the themes you explored in your work?
The project that I have in that show is about the internment, my parents' experience or my interpretation of their experience.
Mm.
And while doing that project, I came to realize my growing up with them after the war, they practiced this Japanese tradition called gaman, which means to kind of grin and bear it, essentially. It's like they were considered the enemy, a lot of racism, a lot of economic issues going on there. And they just were not revealing about the context, the political and social context of what happened to them. Because on one hand, I think they wanted me to have a clean, untainted look at the country. They wanted me to be American. They wanted me to be safe in America. And I think it was actually really remarkable because it's something I didn't really understand the extent of until I was much older. And I discovered these images after my parents passed away of them in the camps. And so all the stories that I may have heard about camp, so to speak, became a little more crystallized and real when I saw those pictures, because I guess I didn't have a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research after that. And because I think also the Japanese after the war didn't really want to invite any retribution for complaining about stuff. Plus, there was nothing really to be gained about talking about it with the neighborhoods they moved back into. It was their issue to carry, so they carried it and moved forward and integrated and allowed me a chance to come into America without those prejudices. And so when I discovered that and did the research, I decided to be a voice for what they couldn't. And I have a subsequent project that I want to work on that is sort of what the importance of what that voice, the fact that they were able to reframe what happened to them and still move forward. That was something that I don't know, I just found it remarkable. And it's something that that's what they decided to do to integrate into the country. And it's a sort of a powerful thing in a way. And I think that in American culture, we don't really have something like that. The closest thing I would say for me that I would think of is bankruptcy, where you fail and you're kind of forgiven and and you can move forward and start a new business. So, but this is more about personal and emotional.
Yeah.
And having been shamed for being the enemy, and it's a pretty remarkable little thing to do. And it's a way to, I think reframing things like that is a way to possibly live in diversity. Anyway, it's just something that I'm going to work on a subsequent project.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story with me and for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And also as a parent, what in some ways like an incredibly loving gesture, but also horribly painful.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like almost all of that community that was incarcerated kind of took that stance up after the war. Although I'm sure some of my friends would talk about their parents being angry. My parents didn't do that, and so it's almost like I didn't know I was Japanese. Months later, I was just a kid going to school, and at some point, start to see these differences and understand them. But they were they just wanted me to be American.
What did your mom and dad do for an occupation?
Well, my father was a cabinet maker. He was kind of a builder person. My mother was a hair stylist, and But after a while, I think she became more of a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
Once my brother and I were, kind of born in here.
Yeah.
We decided to split that up that way. But yeah, I was born in Chicago.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of a repository for a lot of Japanese that were, in camps, a mecca to kind of move to and not have the same kind of scrutiny as they would on the West Coast.
Mhm.
They were there for probably like 7 years or something, and I was there for about 5 years before we moved back to Monterey. And yeah, it's interesting that those migratory patterns that in the middle of the country there, that's where a lot of Japanese moved to. Apparently, also a lot of Jewish people too.
Yeah.
According to the guy that I talked to this morning about who's writing the
The review.
review.
Yeah.
He's a professor.
Well, again, thank you. In your early career, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced as you navigated the world of like design and fine art?
Well, as it turns out, I guess, I think in terms of being a designer, I kind of found, well, at least this is what I believed. I found that doing design work that incorporated a fine art sensibility was actually something that was a bit more powerful than the standard, show and tell commercial approach. Say advertising or communication projects into something that was very artful had a lot more power to it, at least in my opinion. And I think they were successful in the fact that when I did advertising for some people, those ads might last for 20 years or something. They were timeless. And they were also kind of a brand building thing. So it was something that I managed to bring those things together some of the time in some commercial projects that made me feel kind of comfortable working in that realm.
Yeah. Did you feel it gave you an advantage over less fine art designers, for lack of better terms?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it gave me more a chance to use a different side of the brain, more imagination than maybe simply choosing color and type and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think so. Well, nobody else really was doing that. I think when I had a wine client, a very, like all wineries, small wineries, they're a very wealthy company and could do anything they wanted. And so I was doing this ad campaign, it was the first campaign for them. And there's no wine bottle in the ad. And it was just this thing. It was this thing that we came up with in a retreat that was Taste a Dream. And so it was a dream, ad about dreams kind of in a way. And when it was published in the Wine Spectator, the owner who was in the Netherlands, he kind of freaked out, because it was like his president here approved it, but he hadn't seen it and it ran. And then he started getting a lot of good feedback, that people kind of liked it because it wasn't the normal thing. And there were people like distributors saying, I don't know who this winery is, but I'd like to buy some wine from them. So, he kind of changed his tune and started participating in making the next series of ads. And he was actually more adventurous than his staff was most of the time. So he kind of figured it out and got on board that it was okay to be artistic and different.
Well, there's something I read about you that I just find fascinating. And you've spoken about the tension between individualism and harmony, and those are like values from American and Japanese cultures. And so how has this sort of both and philosophy shaped your work or your approach to creativity?
I'm not sure how I would draw that connection. It's sort of the sense that it's just being able to live with and embrace paradox in your life, because that's sort of what life is. Not, it's not never black and white. It's always gray, and I'm not sure how it actually influences the graphics or the artwork, but I think it's, as designers, and maybe overlaps in my art too. It's that most designers really are looking for ways to make things better in some way, and making things better is just what you're always thinking about. I mean, it's what I was doing when I was a kid, saying, if I had done that ad, I'd do it this way. You're going to make it a little clearer, a little better. But it's anytime there's a problem, that's your call to action. And there's too many problems. So you have to kind of focus, and I kind of have to make it so that I have some kind of personal connection to be able to say something about the problem versus just taking it on as an outside observer. So when I did the internment camp, I mean, obviously it was personal, and probably the most personal work I've ever done. And it does kind of make it so that I have an authentic voice in it. And I think that's I kind of would love to do something for the climate crisis, but I'm not really as connected to it in a big way. So I'm just going to take on human relationships in like I mentioned, the legacy of what Gaman means and the possibilities of people being able to live together in a diverse world, because it's the way the world is. And I mean, I don't know what they're doing now in the administration, but they're trying to purify the world in a sense that is totally going backwards in time as far as human progress.
What would you say, if you were to think about younger Jerry to current Jerry, what is maybe the biggest shift to your mindset, or like a project that maybe shifted you? Is it projects like this that have a deeper human meaning or impact?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, things that everybody would have to choose what is meaningful to them. And when I was in college, I kind of automatically gravitated to environmental issues and social issues. And I just at the time thought that's just who I am. But 50 years more later, I kind of realized that my parents, even though they weren't talking about the politics and racism they had to experience, that still gets transferred in like an intergenerational trauma. Yeah. Somehow I think I picked that up from them to have a voice, to be able to say something about things. And so, yeah, it was who I was, but I was that way because they couldn't say anything, and they wanted me to be educated enough to say something. And so I think that's sort of what I'm doing now. I mean, in a way, I don't know that there was any one thing, because I think if I look at my trajectory in the fine arts, it's the first project that I was in the 80s that I did using Japanese kimonos in the project. It was an embracing of the fact that I was Japanese, and that's a long time ago, and that's sort of meaningful in the sense that, okay, well, it's okay, I am Japanese, and I can use these, and maybe someone else wouldn't think of doing it because it isn't important to them.
Yeah,
and my work progressed through learning how to set up various still life kind of situations. Also art directing in commercial work. And I just learned everything about photography, and it became a language for me, and able to metaphorically say things that are difficult to say. I was criticized for doing this plastic project without a loud enough voice. And it's sort of like I made beautiful images that had a dark undertone. And it made it so that you could live with it on the wall, but then it also had a story to tell that was beyond just the surface beauty.
That's great. Well, we're to the part of the interview that you knew was coming, and that is Grace and Uncertainty. So I shared with you that it's an important book for me. So do you remember what inspired you to write and design that book?
I had done a couple of other small books that were the first one was really just a collection of quotes that I liked. And then I forget even what the second one was about. It was called Many Hats. I could send you those books sometime because they're just, I haven't looked at them in a long time, but I liked small publications, and I just must have had a lot of thoughts at the time, and I needed to put them down on paper. I needed to kind of see if I could pull it all together and have it make any sense to me. Yeah. Because I was looking at a lot of different things that are going on in the world, and I just wanted to hold them for a moment, a place where, I can see where I was at that time and share them with people, because I know if you're going through something, going to be someone else is going through something similar somewhere, and just wanted to share it. Like I think I mentioned in the book, it did follow doing that, like a keynote presentation to the university design group. So I had some thoughts outlined in a slideshow thing, but it took a long time to put it all down in a way. As short as it is fairly dense, like I said.
Yeah.
So, my thought on espresso or something.
Well, I love, like, you open the book with the idea that consciousness is the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
How does that belief, like, inform your creative process or just your life philosophy in general?
Yeah, I think if you can imagine and hold a belief with confidence, those kind of things manifest. They come to life. But you do need to be sincere about it, passionate about it. It seems to be the way quantum physics will work. It's only there when you look at it. Kind of thing. So you're putting your attention on something, and it exists. And if you don't, it doesn't. So you can interpret that however you like, but it just also backs up a lot of other, kind of spiritual teachings that parallel that. And they came before the science, but those things they're all out there. They're all kind of there to be found, and if you're of the mind.
Yeah. Well, there's one section I read, especially when I'm stuck, and it's kind of in the practice section. It talks about thinking outside the box, or even realizing there is no box. How do you cultivate that mindset, or how have you in your own work throughout the years?
Yeah, that's sort of the whole title of the piece, the uncertainty part. That really is where I was kind of a light moment that I think I even said in the book that I used to work hours and late nights and trying to generate thoughts and ideas for a solution to a design problem. And at some point in I hope it wasn't too far into my career, I realized that wasn't the best way to do it. I got results, but they were tortured since. And that at some point, that you need to trust that the solutions are there, and they're going to, you can only receive them when you're not striving. And so you need to kind of relax and trust that things will happen. And at the same time, early on, you learn that if you don't wait till the last minute and give yourself enough time, there's time for that to gestate, and you do that and it's just when I was working with other designers in the office when it was the days of a real office, things it was interesting because we would play with things, and then I think I would just sort of, I guess I'm trusting my intuition that know that this is a good solution and we don't need to go any further. Because I think that's what I did doing the late nights, was that I knew there was always another way to do it, but you could do that till the end of time.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes you do. I mean, I did the cover to my own book, probably took like 50 versions before I was happy. In the end, you can only, you just know, and you just have to trust that and see. I don't think it's not a qualitative thing that you can use to say this is perfect because of these metrics.
Right.
It's always going to be your gut feeling.
Man, I agree with that so much.
Yeah.
The final section talks about making hope a part of everyone's life.
Yeah.
So how do you personally sustain hope and resilience, especially when, you're either facing an uncertainty or adversity or the state of things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Practices around that?
You do need to hold that things will work out. It's like you don't, I don't know. I guess I try to steer myself away from going into a dark place as much as possible, and having friends and relations that you can talk to about things. It's hope in quantum terms is definitely the needle moves when you have hope. It goes to the positive. So if there's a choice and you do have a choice, you might as well have the positive choice, because it is affecting things in the universe. And it's just so much that is on the verge of brilliance and everything of how the world works. And it seems like it's exciting in a way to be able to use those things in your everyday life, both for design and art. Those are where those things seem to play in a big part, in a way, for everybody who's in the design and art fields.
I know in the past you've talking about personal growth and artistic growth. They're inseparable. How do you see that now in this stage of your career? Like, how do you continue to challenge yourself and evolve?
Well, I hope so. I hope that they continue to evolve. I mean, yeah, it was about maybe, 10 years ago that had that realization, that because I was president of the Center for Photographic Art here in Carmel, and we were trying to do a new program and differentiate that center from other centers. But the idea that creativity is really personal growth, in a sense, that they're one and the same, and that we kind of created a whole workshop program around creativity that emphasized different, other than the normal tools of photography. In fact, there was a design thing, a designer in Italy, and I can't remember his name, but he was talking about bringing in diverse. If you were, say, a furniture manufacturer, you bring in diverse other vendors that would revolve around using the furniture to get different ideas of what that furniture means to the person. So, it could be a cheese maker because the cheese is consumed on a table, a lighting person, and you get these different viewpoints about the same thing. Not just from a furniture perspective. So not just from the photographic perspective. We would bring in painters and writers and theater people and different creativity kind of oriented mediums, and have them talk about creativity from that standpoint. And it was a neat mix, and it was a different way of looking at bringing something more from the inside out rather than just learning more about.
So how do you hope your work, or whether it's your photography or design or writing, like how do you hope that impacts others?
Well, it is pretty much just sharing thoughts as much as it is. I don't know that you can have that much hope for the audience. I mean, they complete the whole process. So you can't really, that's their creativity. Can't really say, I'm going to change everybody's mind, but they can enter it and be part of the conversation, because I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to say, this is what I see. And hopefully people do engage with it, and then they have their own viewpoints, and some of them are really good. So it's just communicating and sharing, and the fact that that's something that's been going on for millennia. It's just what we do, and it's sort of like designers and artists are kind of the gatekeepers of the world knowing about stuff. So
yeah,
that's the job.
So the most recent project and some of the work that you're going to be working on around the internment camps. If your mom and dad were around today, what do you hope they would see or say or experience when they saw those images?
I had received this award in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I was down there to do a little talk about the work, and it was the same work we're talking about. And the night before the talk, I had a dream about my father was in the dream, and he was sort of angry at me. So, I got up and I was thinking, I wonder if he doesn't really want me to talk about this stuff, because they're expressing what I thought was their anger about what happened. But then I really did come back around to the reason that they did it, which was that they were really more concerned about my safety, and which they could be more concerned about today than they were back then. But even so, it's the idea that, I don't know, you just have to do it, because it's part of keeping things moving forward rather than going backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to phrase that.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about that as I was just imagining your digging in and discovering more of their experience as much as you could without firsthand. Is there anything that you wish people would ask you about your work or philosophy that they don't? Or is that not something that you're worried about?
No, I don't think so. And to jump back for a second, I mean, I would think that my parents would be proud of, making that expression. I mean, they were proud of my artwork up until then, so they hadn't seen this work. But yeah, I mean, it was hard to put it out in the beginning, because like I was breaking a silence, essentially. And so it was so well received, with just a small body of work in the beginning, that it encouraged me to keep going with it. And it's interesting. I mean, it's true that I guess I had both the gene to want to say something, and also the one that says, don't say too much. It's like, how do you walk that line? But in terms of there's that Japanese and American aesthetic, I'm trying to do something that is both meaningful and making a strong statement, but doing it in a real beautiful way, so that it's kind of a Trojan horse, I guess.
Well, Jerry, I'm just really honored that I got to share with you just my love for your work. So I don't want to end this interview without saying thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for considering it.
Yeah, absolutely. And please keep putting things out there, because your work is really remarkable, and big fan of yours. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. It was nice to have the conversation.
Before we go, a huge thank you to Sleeping at Last for providing the soundtrack to our show. Ryan's music has been a constant source of inspiration. And if you want to hear more, visit sleepingatlast.com or search Sleeping at Last wherever you get your music. And our show wouldn't be our show without our incredible audio engineer, Steve Wick, who loved this episode so much, it reminded him of his favorite meditation sound. Alrighty then. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did creating it. If you did, it would mean the world to us if you could leave a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. Share the show with your friends, post about it on your favorite social, and help keep these stories going. You can follow us on X at Design of Podcast and check out our site, rule29.com, for more. And until next time, this is Design of. Stay inspired and keep designing your life with purpose.